At least 4 people have been killed and hundreds injured during weeks of anti-government protests that have been going on in Togo. Tens of thousands of opposition supporters marched in the capital, Lomé, in what they call the next phase of their campaign to force President Yasigbe out of office. Youths blockaded a major highway connecting the north and south of the country, calling the movement a final warning to the regime. The main opposition leader, Jean-Pierre Fabre, insists they are going to maintain pressure on the government. Protesters carried placards demanding the restoration of the 1992 constitution, which limited the number of presidential terms to 2. Mr. Yasigbe is serving his 3rd term in office after succeeding his father, meaning that the same family has ruled Togo for 50 years. Joining us now to discuss the issue in Togo is a lecturer at the University of Lagos, Dr. Augustine Agugua. Dr. Agugua, thank you for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
It's okay. Thank you very much for coming on Network Africa. Now, the Togolese are back on the streets of Lomé again, and they're demanding for President Yasigbe to step down. Now, this time, they say they are giving him the final warning. What do you make of this?
Well, I think what you are seeing is what you might regard as the power of the people at work. And it's quite interesting and very heartwarming that to a reasonable extent, we are seeing a kind of revival in the spirit that borders on what we call government of the people, by the people, for the people. I was listening to the person I call herself the crown queen of Senegal, commending the activities of the Senegal, what they call the Togolese, especially the women, as it has to do with revivalism, activism, as it borders on democratic ethos. And the good thing about it, I just want to make this point very clear, not just for the Togolese people, but for Africans generally. There is this understanding that when the people fear their leaders, tyranny reigns and the country or society or nation is in trouble. But when the leaders fear the people, just like what I'm seeing coming up in Togo today, you see a sense of sanity, orderliness, responsibility and accountability come into play. That is what is being enacted in Togo, and I think I'm very, very impressed with that movement.
President Yasigbe first assumed power 12 years ago, and he succeeded his late father in a contested election. Of course, we know that the family has ruled for about 50 years. What do you make of this?
Well, this happens to be one of the issues Africans are always accused of from point of view of sit-tight leadership. Nassima Yadema actually displayed that in his first reign. To tell you the truth, even as an up-and-coming young man, having actually known so much about the history of the late president, I was expecting a change in the making. I was not too impressed when the son eventually emerged as the president. I was not asking myself, can we really say there is only one family that is seen to be competent in a country like Togo? Does it mean that when people talk about circulation of elites, now this is not a case of circulation of elites cutting across various regions of diverse people. Now we are now seeing a kind of circulation of family oligarchy from father to son in a country that is seen to be democratic and not monarchical. Then I think there is a problem in that. It's in that sense, having actually ruled that country for 12 years, with all sense of modesty, sincerity of purpose and frankness of thought, I really feel that the man, Yasigbe, should actually find it honorable to leave when the ovation has not really gone to our way.
But do you see him leaving despite the protest?
Well, that would be very, very disastrous if, for instance, it's not for me to see him doing that. It's for him to take that decision. With what we saw manifesting in the streets of Togo, I think no person should actually make him understand that the game is really up. It should be in his real interest. Really, a tide is actually sweeping across Africa. We saw a manifestation of that tendency in Gambia, and I really thank leaders of Africa, especially the Nigerian leadership, in the role they played in actually convincing the young man of Gambia and young and strong man of Gambia to really call it quits. In the same way, the Togolese leadership should also take a cue. When you are talking about change, yes, the signal came from Nigeria. It moved to other countries. The manifestation of that in Gambia was very, very heartwarming. As it's also drawing nearer to us now, in the case of Togo, I expect the Togolese leader to actually take a cue, not staking his life for something that might not really be worth it, but just to save himself the odium of dying a very, very shameful death, because at the end of the day, we are not hoping that it will get to that. But with what I'm saying, it's like somebody will tell you that if one man cooks for a crowd, the crowd will finish it and still feel very hungry. But if a crowd cooks for a person, there's a problem, because you can never finish what the crowd will give to you.
Now, Dr. Ogugwa, one other issue that the residents have raised is that there have been internet cuts, which is a method they say is allegedly used by the government to stifle criticism. But the authorities say that it's a security measure. What do you think? Do you agree with the government that, cutting internet is a security measure?
When you discuss issues from point of view of constructive engagement, either at the level of self-preservation, see, facts and figures can have diverse meanings and implications depending on the person who is interpreting it. From point of view of the leadership, yes, they are doing that for security reasons, but it's for us to actually interpret it. Is it in a positive light? They are doing that for self-preservation, but when you are preserving yourself, is it in the general interest of the populace? All what I'm seeing is just an effort to sustain the tempo of dictatorship and tyranny. In that sense, stifling opposition and taking or initiating measures to actually kill democratic tendencies in a nation like Togo is not really in the best interest of the Togolese leadership. When you are talking about security, security for whom? Is it for you or for the generality of the masses? At the end of the day, we are looking at security just for the preservation of a select few that is terribly insignificant, as it has to do with the health and progress of the people of Togo. So it is not in the best interest of the Togolese, and I can't really explain it from point of view of security in the interest of the people. It's security in the interest of a very, very insignificant minority, and it is not, generally in the best of terms, as it has to do with democratic march.
Now let's talk about the president's tenure. President Yasigwe has tried to appease the opponents earlier this week. We saw him offering to reduce term limits, but it wouldn't be retroactive to him, and that means that he could stay until 2030. Now, if he wins the re-election, what will this say about his ambition?
If he wins re-election, well, that is neither here nor there. From what I'm saying in the streets of Togo, it's like the people are already fed up to their neck. He might not really win, and but let's hope we take it in a positive light, but from point of view of his own definition of positivism, that the people will eventually dance to that his olive branch and give him that leverage. If that happens, so be it. But the truth about it is that I'm not seeing that manifesting. But I really wonder what that man is looking for. And it's something we Africans should be very, very conscious about. I had a very, very lengthy discussion with a colleague yesterday about the issue of differences between us and the West. Why are we projecting ourselves in such a way that every step we take, we just tend to, sort of justify some of the negative and acerbic views certain segments of the Western nations have about us? This kind of nonsense can't actually be seen to be manifesting in so-called industrial democracies of the West. You see somebody who will take his 8-year term, and once it ends, so be it. I was really rattled when I was monitoring one program sometime last year, and it happened to be a police officer actually not just stopping the former president of the United States of America, George Bush, but also placing him under arrest, which you cannot do to a councillor in any country, even Nigeria. Now, what actually makes us feel from point of view of self-righteousness or pious indignation that we have all what it takes to keep a nation going. It's not just peculiar to Togo. There is something very, very irresponsible about African leadership that borders on this concept of circulation of elites. In the case of Nigeria, right from 1960, you keep on hearing the same set of names. Why should that be? In the case of Togo, I think having been given the grace and privilege of presiding over the affairs of that country for 12 years, let there be a new phase, a lease of life in the life of Togolese people.
Well, we hope we'll see that happening.
No, it just has to happen, you know. I think it's time we start showing ourselves as humane, not just human beings, humane and positive in thinking, not only in thinking, but also in reasoning, as it also manifests in our actions.
Dr. Augustine Ogugua, a lecturer at the University of Lagos, thank you so much for coming on Network Africa.
My pleasure. Thanks.